Hey everyone, it's your favorite time of the week again, or at least it's my favorite time of the week, which is the Linux and open source news time. And this week we've got the Linux Foundation sort of endorsing Chromium by building an initiative with Google to gather contributions, except Chromium will remain under Google's control, so that's all a bit weird. We also have confirmation that SteamOS ISOs, official ISOs, are going to be coming before May. We've got Geforce Now bringing their service to the Steam Deck. We've got news about Budgie, KDE Plasma, and a lot of other things, including our sponsor. This video is sponsored by SquareSpace, your all-in-one platform to create, manage, and publish your own website. Squarespace has really easy tools to make sure anyone can end up with a nice-looking, well-optimized website, no matter if they know how to code or not. They have what they call their blueprint system, which lets you pick from a variety of templates that are pre-built and will suit any type of website, whether it's a simple blog, an online store, a video platform, whatever. On top of that, to go further, Squarespace has their own design engine to create your own pages. You can just drag and drop elements where you want them, and you can change the colors, the fonts, and just tweak the template however you want. And once you have something you like, you can add extra features like creating your own online shop, complete with a payment system that handles credit cards, PayPal, Apple Pay, and more. So check out squarespace.com/thelinuxexperiment, the link is in the description, so you can give Squarespace a shot and you'll also get 10% off your first website or domain name purchase. Okay, so the Linux Foundation partnered up with Google to launch what is called the Supporters of Chromium-based Browsers initiative. This thing aims at funding the development of said web browsers and everything in the Chromium ecosystem, to ensure that Chromium keeps receiving contributions from across the entire open source world, and I should say starts receiving contributions from across the entire open source ecosystem, because right now, apparently 94% of contributions to Chromium are made by Google. The goal of this initiative, spearheaded and hosted by the Linux Foundation, is to provide a space where people and third parties and actors can support projects aimed at improving and taking advantage of Chromium. But there is one giant catch, and that is that Chromium is not moving under the umbrella of the Linux Foundation, where it would truly become independent. It stays under current governance, and every Chromium-based project also stays under their current governance model. Meaning, Chromium is still very much a fully Google-controlled project. Google still gets to decide everything about Chromium, which really sabotaged the entire initiative, in my opinion. Now, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Opera already pledged support. But you will notice that some important Chromium actors like Brave or Vivaldi aren't there, and it's probably because this would basically mean contributing a lot of stuff and just helping Google in the end. They still represent, as I said, 94% of contributions on Chromium because, well, they have all the control on the project, as seen with Manifest v3, where they enforced all the changes that Google wanted onto everyone using Chromium and the Chrome extension store. What is happening here is probably that Google is preparing for a potential sale of Chrome. In a current US-based antitrust case, it is likely that Google might have to sell off parts of its businesses, including Google Chrome, because Google just has too much power. If Google has to sell Chrome, then they cannot fund the development of that web browser through other profitable business units. Chrome itself would just never be a profitable business, and so Google probably wants to offload a lot of the development to the open source community, which is probably why this initiative is happening now and hasn't happened before. The problem is Google retaining all the control over the project and only benefiting from the contributions of the community would not change how things are going right now, and things are not going well right now because the community just does not contribute a lot to Chromium. I would probably have applauded this initiative had Chromium been transferred under the umbrella of the Linux Foundation, because now the project would have been almost independent and would have been like the reference web engine and web browser for everyone, which we need only if it's not controlled by a giant tech company. As it stands now, it's just Google trying to benefit from more contributions, but without giving away any of the control, which is just not acceptable, in my opinion. Now, here we are. The first SteamOS-powered third-party device is now completely official. It's the Lenovo Legion Go S, as we already knew and suspected that it was leaked everywhere. It uses an AMD Ryzen Z or Z1 Extreme system on a chip with Radeon 700M integrated graphics, an 8-inch touchscreen at 1200p with variable refresh rate. It can go up to 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM, although the entry model will be 16 gigs, and it can go up to 1 terabyte of SSD, but the entry model will be 512. The battery is 55 watt hours, and the device will cost $500 US for the base model, so probably 500 euros in Europe. This thing will be available in May, and it will be very interesting to see how well it sells, because the exact same hardware will be available with Windows pre-installed, presumably at the same price, so we'll see how it goes. On top of that, Valve confirmed that they would ship a beta of SteamOS as a standalone ISO that can be downloaded and tested by everyone ahead of the launch of the Lenovo Legion Go S, meaning you will finally be able to download the standalone SteamOS version, which should help a lot with testing, with compatibility, and it will generally just let people build the consoles and handhelds that they want while running the official SteamOS on their various devices. And I know there are tons of gaming distros out there that mimic SteamOS as best as they can. As far as I know, SteamOS is the only one that has the built-in per game settings with a frame rate cap, with FSR, the quality or sharpness of the scaling and things like that, but you'll correct me if I'm wrong in the comments of the episode. At any rate, it will be interesting because an official SteamOS ISO means that maybe other partners are gonna start showing up and trying to sell devices with it, and that's gonna be pretty cool to see. Now let's move on to desktop environments. We finally have some news about Budgie and their efforts to revamp and rewrite parts of the desktop. They've made solid progress on a Wayland section, just like every other desktop environment or compositor has done for the past few years. You can now launch a full Budgie Wayland session that uses the LabWC compositor. It supports screen sharing and streaming with portals. It has all the panels and applets you're used to in Budgie that work as intended, apart from 2 specific applets, and the compositor will receive integration within the Budgie control center, so you can change all the window manager settings graphically and easily. So in 2025, they want to ship Budgie 10.10. This thing will be Wayland only and no longer support X11. And then they'll start working on Budgie 11. Now they apparently still have a few things to fix for Budgie 10.10 to be released, like the night light applets that don't work properly and the keyboard layout applets. Both of these things are now handled by the compositor, and so they required a bit of extra work. Budgie 10.10 will receive updates to fix later issues, but it will no longer get any major features or any major versions. All the work will then be focused on Budgie 11 after 10.10 is released. Now they made a point of not saying which toolkit they were going to use to completely rewrite Budgie 11. They previously had said they didn't want GTK or Qt and they were looking at the Enlightenment libraries, but since then they've said that these foundational libraries are not Wayland compatible enough. They said that people should really know what they're talking about, and honestly, I think they're just gonna use libcosmic and all the libraries that System76 has written for Cosmic. I don't see anything else they could use if they don't want Qt or GTK, but I guess we'll see pretty soon when they open the repos. They say the team is already set up to build all of this, so we'll see when it happens. The Cosmic Desktop Alpha 5 is now out, maintaining the one release per month sort of schedule that System 76 started to have when they introduced their first version. This one brings the new Cosmic Media Player. It uses Vulkan to render video, it uses VA API for hardware accelerated decoding, provided that this is available on the system. It will also, in the future, be used for audio playback, but for now it just plays one file, whether it's a video or an audio. It doesn't have any queuing, playlist, or whatever. Cosmic is also planning to add an app to install codecs inside the desktop. Graphically, they've reordered the Alt Tab or Super Tab tool to work with the most recent apps first, so apps you've opened are sorted by recency, and variable refresh rate support is also now here and fully working. They added a new user settings panel in the settings as well, where you can configure user accounts, you can set passwords, create new users, set the admin status, and there are a few improvements here and there, like for example the ability to open links from the terminal by just left-clicking them, which is cool. And there are also a bunch of bug fixes because it's still an alpha, so there are bugs everywhere. Now these are small improvements over the previous alpha, and it looks like when they are going to release, they will be probably on par with GNOME in terms of the features they offer, and I would say that they probably are aiming at something close to Cinnamon in terms of what features they will offer in the end, where the desktop is considered fully baked in. It will probably never reach KDE level of settings, which is also probably for the best, because why recreate KDE when you already have it? Anyway, Cosmic looks interesting. I'll be looking forward to testing the final beta or the first stable version. Testing these alphas, there's just not enough to make a full video about those. And still on desktop environments, we have Plasma 6.3, or at least its first beta. The headline features is mostly on supporting drawing tablets. The settings and the options are now there to better handle all of these tools. There's also better joystick support for game controllers. There's an improved nightlight mode that now works with HDR displays as well, since KDE supports HDR now. There are a bunch of fixes and improvements for Wayland and X-Wayland. Just looking at the list of changes on Kwin, it's like half the entire release notes, and there are some accessibility improvements. Spectacle, which is the screenshot tool, will now be shipped as part of the Plasma desktop, which makes sense because taking screenshots is really a part of the core desktop experience, and there's a new Snap control panel to better handle Snap packages if you install that kind of stuff. The Info Center also gained a few more informations to better let you know how your computer is working and what it has baked in. There should be a second beta at the end of the month, presumably with even more features, because KDE tends to accept new features in between betas, and the final release is planned for the 11th of February. Obviously, you'll have a video about this on the YouTube channel. They are still on a multiple releases per year, and I don't know when they're gonna move to 2 releases per year, which is their goal. They said they wanted to do that to better align with various distro release dates, like mostly Fedora and Ubuntu. They're not doing it currently. I prefer that because I have more stuff to talk about and I like updates to my KDE desktop, but for their integration and promotion in within distros, it's probably not a good thing. They should really start moving to this 2 releases per year. They're really stable enough to do that now. Now let's go back to gaming a little bit, because there's good news for people who enjoy cloud gaming. Geforce Now will have an official Steam Deck app soon. At CES, Nvidia announced a native application for the Steam Deck, and thus hopefully for Linux in general, because that thing will likely be distributed on Steam, at least hopefully. It will support 4K 60 FPS with HDR, presumably for when you plug your Steam Deck into your TV through the dock, and it will also support RTX. The application should come out later this year. There's no confirmed date just now, and we don't yet know how they will distribute it. hopefully we won't need to take a trip through the desktop mode to download and install it, and hopefully you can just find it in Steam's library and install it in one click. Now, Geforce Now is pretty expensive for a service that just lets you stream GPU and computer capabilities. You still need to buy the games. You can integrate your games library from Steam, from the Epic Games Launcher, from Ubisoft and others, but you still need to buy those games on those services, and not all of those games can be streamed. So it's really a second solution on top of your already existing library. Or if that's your primary way of gaming, you need to only buy the games that are supported through Geforce Now, which you can do through Geforce Now. Personally, I don't really have a need for such a service, but I can understand why it's cool, and having an official Steam Deck application is a big indication that developers and manufacturers and just generally the entire ecosystem of gaming starts recognizing SteamOS and the Steam Deck as a real thing that people actually own, which is really nice. We have yet more good news on Linux gaming. It looks like the developer of the game Marvel Rivals are backtracking on their ban of Linux gamers. They previously issued 100-year-long bans for everyone using Linux or macOS, or more specifically, playing the game using Proton or the Mac Game Porting Toolkit, which obviously a 100-year ban is ridiculous. Either delete the account or don't ban people, but a 100-year ban is basically lifetime ban, so delete the account. Apparently, enough players contacted the studio that they decided to reverse those bans. And the CEO of Codeweavers, who are the developers of Crossover and the main contributors of Wine, they even weighed in to help with this outcome. The studio said that they would work on better detecting actual cheaters, but they did not specifically say that they accepted compatibility tools. So this might flip-flop again. They might decide to switch anti-cheat solutions and use something that doesn't work at all with Linux, macOS, Proton, and whatever else. Now, I thought this was interesting news because it could show that we might have enough people to start pressuring studios into actually supporting our platform, which would be really nice. I'll follow this from afar and we'll see if this is just a nice decision that indicates that gaming on Linux will get better, or if the developers are just slithering around the issue and will hit all the Linux gamers with another blockage by just moving to another anti-cheat tool. And of course, I won't conclude a video without telling you about our sponsor, Tuxedo Computers. They make laptops and desktops that ship with Linux pre-installed. You probably know about them by now. They've been sponsoring this show for a few episodes, and they've been sponsoring the YouTube channel for basically 3 years. They have devices for every price point, every need. They're based in Germany, but they ship to most countries in the world. All their devices have a lot of customization options, a lot of keyboard layouts available, and I only use their stuff nowadays, their laptops and their desktops, to do everything: teaching, writing these shows, recording them, editing them, gaming. Everything is done on a Tuxedo computer. So as always, if you need a new device, you want to run Linux on it, and you want to support a company that actively contributes to Linux, you can click the link in the description and check out Tuxedo Computers. They're really, really good. And this will conclude today's video. I hope you enjoyed watching it. You know what to do with all the usual YouTube buttons. It really, really helps the channel grow, or at least remain sort of relevant in the YouTube algorithm. And if you want to support what I do, there are plenty of links in the description, which will give you plenty of cool perks starting at $1 or euro per month, including a daily version of this same exact show. So thanks for watching, and I guess you'll hear me or see me in the next one. Bye!